The Big 12 will put steps in motion to leave the NCAA. But what does that mean? This is a Locked On Big 12 Locked On Buffs crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to a Locked On Big 12 Locked On Buffs crossover. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. That's Kevin Borba of Locked On Buffs. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. Coming to you live from the coldest place on earth, Lake Tahoe, which is great. I like it. It's just really cold, and knew that the SEC is in a meeting as we speak right now, talking about leaving the NCAA, and the Big 12 will follow, and the Big 10 will follow, and the NCAA will become null and void in college football. But what does that mean? Is it a good thing? Are we going to ruin the very sport that we love and we all think is ruined right now? Then we're going to talk Deion Sanders. Is he done at Colorado? Is this it? Is this his swan song last season, man? Without his son, he goes 4-8, he dips out. I don't think so, but let's talk about it. Then Jake Retzlaff, that sends shockwaves across the Big 12. It's still the biggest storyline, maybe of the entire offseason, at least since the Shedeur draft news. We got to hit it with Kevin Borba. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. Borba, big news out of the SEC this week. We've gone from just kind of kicking the idea around of maybe leaving the NCAA to actually putting it into motion. This is from Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports. In Destin, Florida this week, SEC administrators are expected to examine the governance proposal and possibility of separating football completely out from under the NCAA. They file our paperwork. They have people in an office in Indianapolis. Past that, I think this is maybe step one in getting college football back to where we want it to be.
Yeah, I think the NCAA was a solid institution to govern the sport of college football 50 years ago, right? As soon as college football started advancing, the NCAA never advanced with it. And I think we saw those issues corresponding with NIL, the transfer portal. The COVID year, I think, really made things complicated because, I mean, Colorado just landed a transfer yesterday or 2 days ago now where he benefited from the Diego Pavia rule, where it's like, okay, I was at a junior college, and because I was there, it's your fault that I didn't get to profit off my NIL. And so Diego Pavia is back for year 9. And so a lot of junior college guys are back for year 6, 7, whatever. And so the NCAA just doesn't have the hammer of power it once had, right? When college football was literally like, hey, these kids are here to play football and get an education, that's when the NCAA thrived. And they are no longer that. They are getting paid as high as or as much as coaches. They are able to move as freely as possible. They are able to just sue their way out of everything. And there really needs to be a set of rules, a set of boundaries that can be enforced. And right now, the NCAA cannot enforce that. And I think, I don't really know what the goal was, but Donald Trump, when he was enacting Nick Saban and the guy from Texas Tech, I think they were trying to fix college football. They're trying to get it into a direction where there's punishments and there are sort of rules that can actually be enforced, because the NCAA, I mean, they're enforcing the rules as much as, I don't know, a piece of paper.
Yeah. And that paper is getting sued all of the time.
Yeah, that paper is dealing with about 1,000 lawsuits every day, it feels like.
And losing immediately all of the time. Josh Pate, who I like, he's been on this show before. I'm a fan of Josh Pate. He has some of the takes of all time. Every now and then he'll post something, I'm like, wow, which, as do I. Guilty as charged. And his most recent one was, if you think college football is being ruined, do you not still get the same tingle on a Saturday? Do you not still watch on a Saturday, College Game Day, and the whole slate? And yeah, I do. But also, I think it's kind of, you almost sound removed as you say that when you consider that Oregon plays Rutgers in a conference game. Like, ruined is a strong word, sure, but I don't like what we're doing. I don't like that that's a thing, and I don't feel like I should be shamed by anybody for feeling that way. This is the first time, based on really Cody Campbell's vernacular, that I feel like we might be trending in the right direction, because the NCAA has been, at the very least, complacent in allowing college football to become Oregon, Rutgers, a noon conference game.
Yeah, I don't love this is what you signed up for. I don't love the culture. Like, I think people can have opinions and still enjoy something, right? Like, I like the NFL. I don't love how much like they shove the Kansas City Chiefs down my throat, but am I going to be like, I'm so anti-NFL right now because I hate Taylor Swift or whatever? Like, no, I don't care. Right.
Sure.
The same thing with college football. Like you could like the sport, you could be excited for whatever game on Saturday, but you don't have to like that the Pac-12, my former employer, is no longer. You don't have to like that. I mean, the Nico Imhoff situation, excuse me, I just butchered his name, but Nico situation, you don't have to like that, right? Where he's threatening to sit out a playoff game, a literal playoff game, not just like a random game in the season, not that that'd be any better, but a playoff game for more money. And then he tries to force his way to a bigger school for more money. And like, you don't have to like that aspect, right? I think the fair comparison is the NFL. And it's just be like, imagine if your favorite NFL team was about to play for a Super Bowl and one of your best players or your quarterback was just like, you know what? I think I'm going to go play for the Bills, right? Or I think I'm going to go head out and play for this team, or I'm not feeling it today and I'm not going to play for you. Like college football, I think has the right idea right now in terms of playing players. I don't really love the super conference idea, but there's some general good ideas, but the execution is terrible, right? I think we could agree that not everything is being executed perfectly. There's a nice foundation, but it's not the same sport that we once knew. It'll never be that again. But I do think there are adjustments to help the average fan feel like this isn't, I don't know, a disaster class every single week. And Drake, I mean, you talk about it. You know as well as anyone that college football is headed in a direction where it's not going to be recognizable to fans who grew up waking up to college game day and being like, okay, like I'm looking forward to the day, right? You're going to wake up and you're going to be like, oh, that's right, Miami's playing Stanford today because that is a conference game, right? So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the hate for the sport, if you will?
I mean, yeah, again, I'm not happy with where we're going. And to your point with the NFL, imagine you're a fan of the Miami Dolphins and they had to change their entire roster every year. Who would you root for? Whose jersey would you buy? Because the next year, they're all gone. You've flipped your roster, you've changed your players, and you don't give fans a rooting interest anymore. Kids can't grow up saying, oh, I want to be like, so even, okay, Cam Ward, great quarterback, number 1 overall draft pick, but he went to 3 colleges, and they used the transfer portal in the way that he should. At the same time, there's not a 6-year-old. It's like, yeah, I enjoyed all 4 years of Cam Ward as my starting quarterback for my school, and I bought his jersey. And, you get little increments of greatness in college football now. You don't get what, a Vince Young was at Texas, where you watch this guy grow up and he becomes a star. Reggie Bush at USC becomes a star. You just don't have that. Coming up, Deion Sanders. Do we have that at the end of this year, or is he gone? This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Buffs crossover. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I've gone this entire NBA postseason. They're in full swing, and the can't-miss moments are even better with FanDuel. You stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players show up with the biggest moments? SGA? Probably. You could even track him on FanDuel and put money on his props live or pregame. With everything heating up in the NBA, a $200 bonus is going to help you. That is exactly what you get if your first $5 bet hits. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Go to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Kevin Borba of Locked On Buffs. Deion Sanders. We had this conversation at large last offseason about him being done at Colorado following his son and Travis Hunter leaving and everything flips and turns over. Is this a swan song? Is this his last season at Colorado just to prove that he can win or be a good coach or be a good leader without his son? Does he have something to prove this year that will allow him to exit to a bigger school or to the NFL and leave Colorado behind?
I think by him signing on to be one of the highest paid coaches in college football, I think that's a perfect sign that he's not leaving coaching, right? I don't say I was under the impression that he was going to leave because I never thought he was going to leave, but I figured if there was a time for him to depart coaching, it would have been when his sons left for the NFL. So he's still coaching, which I feel like is a respectable move because he had said time and time again, like, I'm a grown man. I do my own things. Like, I'm not following my sons. They followed me. And then everyone's like, okay, we'll see, right? We'll see when a TV job offer comes your way or an NFL job offer comes your way. And it sounds like he did kick the tires on the NFL. At the same time, it may have also been sort of a move to get Colorado to make him the highest paid coach in the Big 12 and a top 5 highest paid coach in college football. So I think he returns to Colorado, right? I think regardless of what year it is, I think Deion Sanders is always going to want one thing, which is power at his program. He's going to want the ability to run his ship the way he wants, right? And I think everyone is like, he won't stay at Colorado forever because some SEC school is going to come knocking on the door eventually and being like, hey, come coach here. And everyone's just looking at the brand, right, of the SEC. They're not looking at how Deion Sanders operates. And Deion Sanders operates in a very unique way. I think if you're a non-Colorado program, you're probably like, I would never let that fly here. And it's not that he does anything bad. It's just he runs Colorado, right? He sells his own merchandise. He has, at any given time, there's like 3 documentary cameras there, right? Like he's going to be on a Netflix show. He had an Amazon Prime show the past 2 years. His own son has a YouTube channel. Like he does things his way. He builds his roster through the portal. And so I just don't think that going to a bigger school where the boosters and the school is going to want to be super involved in his decision making is going to fly. And Colorado lets him do him. And until he gives them a reason not to let him do that, I feel like it's the perfect marriage.
Why is Deion Sanders still coaching college football?
It's a good question. I think he found his passion, right? I think in one way or another, I think it's his passion to coach and mentor the youth of college football, right? He said, even though like there was the NFL rumors, he never wanted to coach in the NFL because he can't like mentor those grown men, right? Those guys are there for a paycheck. They're there to play for their family. They're there for their legacy. For college football, there's still kids chasing dreams. Even with all of the shenanigans that go on with NIL and the transfer portal, it's still, at the end of the day, kids chasing a dream, which is getting to the NFL, playing football at the highest level. And I think Deion Sanders has shown that he can help people reach their dream, right? And he brings in a great staff. Like there's not many, if any, other college football coaching staffs that have 3 Hall of Fame players on their staff, right? They have Warren Sapp, they have Marshall Faulk. Everyone on the staff outside of like 2 people has played in or coached in the NFL. So he's all about helping players reach their dream. And Drake, I think this is like on a personal level, he's a bit of an empty nester, right? All of his kids are, I think his youngest daughter is still in college, but she transferred elsewhere. And so Shiloh, Shador, Dion Jr., his oldest daughter, they're all well off into adulthood now. And although I'm sure Deion Sanders has plenty of other opportunities, like he has a TV show he does and stuff like that, I think part of him is happy to have his own thing, right? I think once we all grow up and move on, like when your parents realize like, hey, Drake's done like living here, like they pick up golf or they pick up whatever, they pick up antiquing, right? And I think this is his golf or antiquing. It's his hobby. It's his passion that he was able to do with his kids. And now it's something that he could do by himself.
Why, man, this is a tough one and it comes up a lot, but I'm going to do it again. Why hasn't he left for the SEC or the Big Ten for an Auburn Auburn is always the school that's kind of thrown around in this conversation. Why has he not done that? And do you think ultimately he will?
Yeah, it's a good question. At the end of the day, if an SEC school comes knocking, it's gonna have to be an SEC school that doesn't have an overbearing booster group, right? And if you aren't familiar with what a booster group is, it's basically just a bunch of rich dudes who are just like, hey, I donate money to this program, so I get to tell you what I want, or I get to tell you what to do. And I think that's the one thing that'll prevent Deion Sanders from moving on, right? Or if he does eventually leave for an SEC program or Big Ten program, it's a school that's going to be willing to let him do his thing, right? So automatically, I think there's programs that people are like, he's going to go to the, like you said, Auburn, right? Auburn is notorious for having very hands-on boosters, right? Alabama, same thing. Ohio State's, not that Ohio State would be open, but like Ohio State's fan base and boosters are some of the most rabid in college football, right? So it would have to be like the perfect pairing. And I don't know how many programs out there are really willing to allow that to happen. And again, I'm saying this because I don't want people to be like, Kevin's saying he's doing bad things. He doesn't do anything bad. He just runs the program. He runs Colorado his way or the highway. And so if there were a job, I think it would be an unorthodox job. Like, I'm not saying he'd go to like Mississippi State, but I don't think it'd be like a top tier SEC job. I think it'd be a program who's in the SEC that isn't notorious for being atop the conference. But I really think he likes Colorado. I genuinely do. I think I think he'll have opportunity. He probably had opportunities to leave after they went 9-4 last year. They probably had opportunities to leave after the first year, right? So I just feel like he's kind of he's put what he said, put down the thing on the bike, the kickstand. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't think of that. He put down his kickstand in Colorado, and I think for him it means something different than other coaches who are like, this is my dream job, right? I think if Deion Sanders leaves Colorado, this is my take on Deion Sanders leaving Colorado. It'll be for the media. I don't think it'll be for coaching.
He's the most important figure in the Big 12, yes or no?
Absolutely. I think he's the face of the conference. I think he, in a way, gives the conference hope, right? Colorado was the only, I think there were 1 or 2 schools, including Georgia, to have every single game nationally televised last year. For some programs in the Big 12, when they played Colorado, that might have been their only nationally televised game, right? So he gives the Big 12 a bigger platform. I talked about this with Spencer from Locked On College Football. I think Deion Sanders in Colorado being great would probably be the best thing for the Big 12 because it brings so much more attention to the conference, right? And I think, I'd love to get your thoughts on it because everyone's going to say I'm the Locked On Buffs guy, so it's biased. But realistically, is there anyone bigger in the conference than him? And is there anyone in the conference who can boost it more than he can?
Certainly not. Yeah, Kenny Dillingham's a great coach. Kalani Sitake is a stalwart. We know that Kyle Whittingham can win football games, but there's not an individual player. There's not an individual coach. Even Bill Self is not changing the economy of Lawrence, Kansas, the way that Deion Sanders is. Bill Self wasn't an NBA. This is the equivalent of a Michael Jordan type coaching a college basketball team in the Big 12. It would be groundbreaking. That's what Deion Sanders is doing as a former NFL star and to great success. I don't think there is another person you can name who's done more for a university in this conference right now or does more because, again, Colorado is in the spotlight constantly with the name Deion Sanders tied to them. Coming up, bad spotlight. The whole Jake Retzlaff situation is just, no matter how you spin it, tough for this conference, bad for BYU, and the reaction of hosts across this network has been it just shock. This is a Locked On Big 12 Locked On Buffs crossover. Kevin Borbo, we've talked this week on Locked On Big 12 with Cameron Stewart. We talked with Jake Hatch about the Jake Retzlaff situation. Most BYU sources have come out and said, hey, look, because of the legal process, it's very unlikely he plays this fall, meaning one of the top contenders in the Big 12 will lose its starting quarterback. If that's the case, as he has been accused of allegedly committing sexual assault against a woman in Provo, this is something I haven't asked anybody else that's joined the show. Initial reaction when you heard the news?
Yeah, my initial reaction was obviously it's very disappointing, right? I think it's a disappointing situation, right? You hope that it's resolved in the right way. You hope that the victim is able to find clarity on the situation, is able to find justice on the situation. I hope that justice is served in either way. And so when you hear that, I feel like the person in me goes, wow, I hope, like I said, I hope the victim is served or given the justice they deserve. And then I think of, like you said, how this impacts BYU in the Big 12. And not that football is bigger than life, but that's obviously where we are paid to talk about. And so I just immediately was like, okay, BYU is out. They are just no longer in contention, right? And I know they got Bear Bachmeier from Stanford, who I covered for a little bit. And I think he has the potential to be good. I think fans will probably need some getting used to, assuming he's going to wear the number. What number is he in? 47 or something, right?
Yeah,
that's
weird.
Yeah, he did at Stanford too. But yeah, it was just one of those situations where you hate to see it happen. I talked about it on my show. It's one of those things where you're innocent until proven guilty. But obviously it's not something you want to see, right? And then hopefully the victim, and if there's other victims, feel brave enough to come forward, if so. But it's one of those things where it changes the trajectory of people's lives, and it changes the trajectory of BYU's program. Not that's obviously second in this situation, but if it's one of those things where he never plays it down in football for BYU again, then obviously the program felt that was the right move.
Man, here's what's tough.
Yeah.
If this happens in any program and the legal process will take a year, you can't play the guy for fear that it comes out that, he was liable for the sexual assault. And if you do play the guy, then you played somebody who was liable for sexual assault. You're just asking for a firestorm. Have we not just seen the end of Jake Retzlaff's career at BYU? Have we seen the end of that name being associated with BYU? Like, are they obligated to just move on, never say his name again, and try to act like he didn't exist as they attack this football season?
I think they have to give him due process. So I think they have to go through the proper channels. That being said, and I think, I would like you to explain a little for my listeners and viewers, because you did a great episode on it with Pete Souza, the honor code, right? BYU operates in a different manner than 99.9% of college football programs, because it is associated with the Church of Latter-day Saints. Did I get that right?
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We're close. Yeah.
Thank you. And so they operate under that umbrella, right? And so they have what is called the honor code. And I'm going to have Drake sort of chime in here and explain it. I think if the honor code is broken, then I think they are pretty strict about it, right? The honor code is not something that BYU takes lightly. And I'd like you to provide your insight, because if it is broken, then I think, his time is most likely done. But obviously I do feel like he has to be given due process.
Yeah, I mentioned it, as you mentioned, on the Pete Souza show, and with Pete, who's with ESPN, that the honor code is the most important piece of this from a football only standpoint. If we're just talking about, and this is a football podcast, right? There are legal podcasts that are going to give you the ins and outs of the case and how it will play out. And again, I want to be very careful as to respect the victim, the alleged victim, and to respect all parties involved. From a strictly football standpoint, the honor code is what really comes into play here, because at BYU, there are a list of things that you cannot do as you uphold the highest standard that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints calls for. And it's very admirable that they have the athletes who are willing to not just be elite on the field, but genuinely elite off the field. Like not just good human beings, but some of the most upstanding citizens that the country can produce. They go to BYU, they hone that skill. And in any way, if Retzlaff broke the honor code in any way, he will not play a complete season next fall. If he says, hey, this is me, this is Drake speaking. If Retzlaff meets with the school, with the university, and says, I did not commit sexual assault, I did have consensual, premarital, extramarital sex with the alleged victim, his career at BYU is done. My opinion is his career at BYU is done. Why? One, you've broken the honor code. And we've seen the Davies situation in 2011 with Jimmer Fredette, great basketball team in March Madness. He's caught premarital sex. He can't play in March Madness. It's like the most popular, I guess, public extension of the rule when BYU said, hey, this is how seriously we take it. With this, you've doubled it to not just you had premarital sex, but you have put a complete black spot on the university. You have put us on Good Morning America, the Today Show. Every outlet is talking about the BYU quarterback, the guy who signed on to an honor code, the guy who upholds this high standard, the guy who is a model, supposed to be a model for kids across the state of Utah, for kids across the country, for the LDS Church. This guy, not only did he, if this is what happens, if he says, yes, I did it consensually, I had sex, not only did he break the honor code, it has now caused BYU to look embarrassing in the public light, in the spotlight. And not only can you not let that fly at BYU, you have a religion, a faith to protect, and a higher calling, a larger mission, because those three letters are tied to so much more than just college football, sports, education. And that's where this becomes most complex, is even if he is exonerated of the charges, it doesn't mean he's exonerated of the honor code and things that he has done. And the university will take a deep look into what Jake Retzlaff has done in his personal life to possibly break that honor code. And Kevin, I think that is, again, from a sports standpoint, maybe the most important piece of this.
Yeah, and I think from the sports standpoint, because I like how you worded that, because I do think there's two different aspects to it. There's obviously the legal aspect to it. There's the perspective of the victim. And I think that's probably the most important. But obviously, we don't know any of the other details at this time. So the only thing we could talk about is, one, we hope that everyone's given the justice they deserve. And we also could talk about how this affects BYU. And like you said, BYU is losing, possibly losing someone who, I don't say changed the trajectory of the program, but Jake Retzlaff being inserted into the lineup sort of I would say, charged up this program in a way that I don't think a lot of people saw coming unless you were in Provo, right? I feel like BYU the first year or so in the Big 12 was kind of doormat vibes where it's just like people walked over them. It is what it is. And then, right, they had Keaton Slovis back in the day, shout out. And now it's like, okay, you're in a situation where you lose someone who's the face of your team. You lose someone who's a leader on your team, and you sort of have to rally and get behind someone else. And you also have to walk this fine line of like, what do we do as a program? And I think you highlighted the honor code perfectly. I'm not an expert on it by any means. I'm not a practicing member of that religion, but I do think it shows the importance of like their values over there, right? Because it seems based on the honor code that it's more likely he does not play for BYU than there's a path for him to retake the field. This doesn't mean he's not going to play college football again, but it just doesn't seem like it'll be at BYU given the information we know at this time, which is, I think, changes the conference's standings and how it will shape out.
Yeah, that's what I've heard most from BYU sources. His career might not be over. His career at BYU very likely is. Kevin Borba, where can folks find more of your work?
Yeah, you can find me over at Locked On Buffs, covering Deion Sanders, Colorado every single day. They're always active in the transfer portal, and I'm over at Athlon Sports covering college football, the NBA, the WNBA, so go check me out over there.
This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. A crossover with the Buffs and Dose Grande.